Hey there, TikTakers! Do you also feel like leaving the house and going on a trip? With like nothing more than going to Japan, the cradle of the most terrifying legends in the world. But since it won't be possible for now, we will have to be content with reviewing some of their creepiest stories. Hanako-san, Nureona, Oiwa, and Yukiona. We hope you enjoy them, and as always, you can tell us your ideas for future videos in the comments. We're always reading you. It's Hanako-san, the sinister spirit of a young girl who haunts school toilets, one of the spookiest yokai of Japanese folklore. Hanako has short, straight black hair. She wears a school uniform with a red skirt and braces over a white shirt. They say her dark look can freeze the blood of the bravest people. It is said that Hanako-san is an initiation rite or a bravery test at schools, very similar to Bloody Mary or Veronica. We don't know why exactly, but Japanese legends are many times related to enchanted bathrooms. Hanako is no exception. She lives in the third bathroom of the third floor. If you feel her evil presence and you are brave enough to knock on the door, you have to do it 3 times and ask, "Are you there, Hanako-san?" A chilling and sinister voice will answer, "Yes, I'm here." Then she can just vanish, sinking into the toilet and flushing. Or, with a bloody hand, drag you inside to kill you. Hanako's origin is uncertain, but many people say it is a girl that died tragically when her school was bombed during World War II. This explains her outfit, with a uniform very similar to the ones Japanese girls wore back then. Her spirit was trapped between the world of the living and the world of the dead, and now she wanders bathrooms scaring whoever dares to bother her. There are many variations of the legend, but they are all as terrifying. In one of them, Hanako-san can answer with a hoarse voice as if she was possessed by Satan. In fact, some people say it's not a girl but the devil himself trying to trick you with a sweet voice. And when you look inside the toilet, you find a monster. For Japanese people, 4 is a bad luck number, as phonetically it sounds very similar to the word death. In some schools in Japan, they say you have to go inside the 4th toilet and once inside, recite "Ichibanme Hanako-san, Nibanme Hanako-san, Sanbanme Hanako-san," which literally means first Hanako, second Hanako, third Hanako. Then a pale and stinking hand will appear over the toilet's door. Another way to call on her is by stirring the water in the toilet 3 times while you call her, non-stop. A bloody hand will come from the toilet and she will try to drag you with her. In other versions, Hanako follows you around the playground at school while you are playing. If you fall and you hurt your knee, you could get the feared Hanako fungus, a white stain she somehow passes on to you. This fungus will spread around your whole body until you look putrefied. If you don't want to be a victim of this evil spectrum, there are ways of avoiding her. Hanako usually prefers dirty and dark toilets. This is why many teachers advise their students to always keep them clean. The risk of finding this assassin spirit is a lot higher if you do it alone. If you stay together, the possibilities of surviving will increase. Go to the toilet together. If you're a very good student and have got the top grade on an exam, you can keep calm. Hanako-san won't attack you. She will just disappear without hurting you. Hanako's myth has inspired many artists in mangas, animes, and movies, such as Toire no Hanako-san from 1995 or Shinsei no Hanako-san from 1998. She also reminds us of the character Moaning Myrtle in Harry Potter, the ghost of a student killed by Lord Voldemort in the toilets of the 2nd floor. Be careful. If you go to the toilet and you know Hanako-san is there, don't knock on the door, because what you will find will haunt you forever in your nightmares, if you're lucky enough to survive. As you know, Japanese folklore is full of powerful spirits, ghosts, and demons that terrorize the living. These monsters are known as yokai and are beings seeking revenge. This is Scary Tuesday. We're going to tell you about Nureona, an aquatic spirit with vampire traits. Nuriana is a sea snake that roams the coasts and rivers in search of humans to eat. They are most commonly found on the coast of Kyushu, southern Japan, but there are also stories that place it north in the archipelago. Nureona means wet woman, and it comes from the fact that she always appears soaked. We can find two versions of Nureona, one without arms, which resembles a huge sea snake with a woman's head, and one with human arms that end in claws, as if it were a mermaid, but with a snake's tail. Apart from this difference, the two versions look and behave exactly the same way. Their faces are horrible. She has an evil smile and a tenebrous laugh. They also have a forked tongue. She has beautiful, long black hair that sticks to her dripping body. Physically much stronger than a human being, she is believed to be powerful enough to crush trees with her tail. But Nureona prefers to use deception and cunning to catch its prey, rather than relying on brute force. Normally, we can find Nureona on the shore near the water or on the bank of a river washing her beautiful hair. To catch her victims, she often appears magically disguised as an anguished woman carrying a baby in her arms. She asks the fishermen or anyone who passes by for help. When the prey approaches, Nureona will beg you to hold her baby for a moment so that she can rest. If the person accepts and takes the package, it quickly becomes as heavy as a rock and the victim cannot move. That is when Nureona attacks her helpless victim, drawing blood from her long serpentine tongue. In other versions, Nureona catches her victims pretending to be a drowning woman. When someone approaches to try to save her, she attacks. Nureona often appears alongside other yokai like Isohana, as they live in the same environments and share the same diet. Isohana, also known as the Beach Woman, is a dangerous vampire spirit that wanders the western coast of Japan, looking for fishermen and travelers to eat. The legends don't agree on her appearance, though mostly she manifests herself as a beautiful woman who has just come out of the water. Her hair almost reaches her feet and is tangled. She has attractive eyes and usually wears a light white nightgown. From the waist up, her appearance is feminine, but from the waist down, her body becomes blurred and transparent, showing her ghostly nature. When Isohana appears before humans on sandy beaches, they are shown as beautiful beings staring at the sea. If someone approaches and tries to talk to her, they turn around and let out a deafening scream that stuns the victim. Then they rush with their long hair and drag their prey towards the sea, where they draw blood with their hair. On rocky shores with no sandy beaches, Isohana sits on the cliffs and calls passers-by with a hypnotic voice that makes them walk directly towards her. Both Isohana and Nureona are found mostly during Obon, a Japanese holiday that honors the spirits of their ancestors, and also on New Year's Eve, when the limit between the realm of the living and the realm of the dead can be easily crossed. A long time ago, there was a samurai called Aimen who fell out of favor not having anyone to serve, and had to make umbrellas to maintain his family. His wife Oiwa was a very pretty woman, but after giving birth to their first child, she fell sick. Oiwa didn't care how poor her family was, as she was happy just by being right next to the person she loved. However, Aimen was ashamed of his situation, and with time, he started hating her for being content with a miserable life. After some time, a young lady called Ome, granddaughter of a wealthy doctor, fell in love with Aimen. Aware of this, one day, her grandfather suggested she should work for him as a samurai in exchange of taking her as a wife. Seduced by the idea, they both planned to get rid of Oiwa, and they gave her a medicine to cure all her illnesses. However, this supposed medicine was actually poison, which gradually disfigured her face. Her eyes started to fall down, and one day, while she was brushing her hair, some locks just fell off, leaving a trace of blood on her face. Even though Oiwa knew something was happening to her face, she was so poor that she didn't even have a mirror to look at herself. As her beauty kept deforming, Aimen started insulting and looking down on her. As he was unable to kill her with the poison, he sent a servant called Kohei to seduce her and so have an excuse to leave her. But when the time came, the servant felt bad for her, told her about her husband's plans, and gave her a mirror. When she saw herself, she went mad and started struggling with Kohei, cutting her throat with his katana. While she was bleeding to death, she used her last breath to curse Ayamon and swear revenge. When he got back home, he discovered his wife's body, though there was no trace of his servant. Knowing his testimony could compromise him, he sent people to find him and killed him. He decided to get rid of the bodies by nailing them to a board and throwing them to the river. He was finally free to marry Ome, and they celebrated a great wedding. That same night, when the couple was finally alone, Ayamon took the veil of the young lady off. But behind this thin fabric, he didn't find the innocent Ome smiling back at him, but the disfigured and bloody face of Oiwa clamoring for revenge. He took his sword and cut the face of his dead wife, who cried heartbreakingly when he touched her face. But when her body fell on the floor, Ayamon saw that he had actually killed Ome, and he ran away terrified. While he was running down the hallway, Kohei's gloomy figure appeared. He took his sword again and cut again. But after cutting his throat, he realized it was actually the body of his father-in-law. Totally controlled by panic, he ran away and searched for refuge at the mountains. Ayamon never got to rest after those events. Everywhere and at all times, he saw Oiwa, her reflection in the water, the night lights. Her disfigured face always accompanied him, and he even started hearing her voice. One day he went fishing. He found the two boards with the putrefied bodies of Oiwa and Kohei. They were reproaching him from the afterlife for his actions. He started to get crazy. However, he wasn't ready to confess his crimes. Until one day, Oiwa's brother came to his hiding place. After knowing about his evil actions, he defied him to death. They both got ready to brandish their swords, decided to end with the life of the other. Ayamon was clearly ahead, as he was a samurai, and he soon cornered his opponent. But right when he was gonna hit the coup de grace, Oiwa's face appeared. He was totally paralyzed with terror, and his opponent made the most of it. He hit a death blow. Ayamon collapsed with expression of horror on his face, and the last thing he saw before dying was Oiwa's macabre smile. She had finally taken revenge upon him. Her physical appearance is that of a very beautiful young woman. She's tall and her hair is long, but her eyes can terrify anyone by just looking at them, and her skin is very pale. It almost seems transparent. She usually wears a white kimono, but in some legends she appears naked, laying on the snow, and her face and hair are the only contrast with what's around her. When she moves, she floats over the snow and leaves no trace. Some people even say she doesn't have feet, a common characteristic in many yokai. If she feels threatened, she can vanish, transforming into a cloud of smoke or snow, since she's associated with winter and that kind of snowy landscapes. And she usually appears when the weather conditions are like that. And about the origin, people say it's the spirit of a pregnant woman who froze to death in the snow. That's why sometimes she shows herself holding a baby on her arms. Other versions say it's a princess from the moon who, tired of her life, came down to Earth during a snowstorm to explore it, and then she never knew how to get back home. She has an evil nature. Her beauty hypnotizes the travelers that are tired of fighting against the storm, and she uses her frozen breath to calm them down and send them to sleep, until they pass out and turn into ice sculptures. Sometimes she just disorientates them and leads them to dying lost in the middle of the snow. But in other legends, she's a more aggressive character. She goes into people's houses, knocks the door down with a gust of wind to kill them while they sleep. Even sometimes she adopts the shape of a succubus or a female demon to seduce weak men and with a kiss take from them their vitality. As you can see, she has multiple manifestations, and depending on where in Japan we go to, We'll hear different versions. In the prefecture of Niigata, they say she kidnaps kids. In Iwate and Miyagi, they say she steals souls. And in Ibaraki, she throws men who ignore her off cliffs. In Aomori, she is called to Bume, and she asks travelers to hold her baby. But the baby is so heavy that the person holding him can't move and freezes to death. Yuki Onna is one of the most classic characters in Japanese culture. She usually appears in the most famous franchises, manga, anime, video games, such as Crayon Shin-chan, One Piece, Ranma, or Final Fantasy. But Yuki Onna also has a merciful side, as it is shown in the most popular tale. We can find it in the compilation book Kwaidan, Stories and Studies of Strange Things, by the scholar of Eastern culture Lefkadio Hearn. One winter night, Minokichi and his mentor Musaku were going back home after a long trip. The last obstacle they had left was going across the river, but when they got there, they were surprised by the boatman not being there. This, plus the weather conditions, forced them to spend the night in his cabin. Musaku fell exhausted, but it took longer for his disciple to fall asleep, with all the noise of the storm at the door. When he finally fell asleep, a gust of wind and snow against his face woke him up again. Minokichi opened his eyes and saw the door open and a beautiful young lady with long hair and a white kimono leaning on his master, kissing him with her blue lips. She turned around and jumped on him as well. He tried to resist but couldn't. The woman looked at him and whispered with her frozen breath that she was going to do the same to him. But due to his age and his beauty, she'd spare his life, though under one condition. He couldn't tell anyone about their encounter, or he'd immediately die. When she vanished, Minokichi tried to wake his master up, but his body was as cold and rigid as ice. A year after, winter came back, and one day Minokichi was going back home when he saw a beautiful girl called Yuki. She was going to town to try to work as a maid. The young boy was captivated by her beauty, and he didn't hesitate to host her. Soon after, they married, and Yuki gave birth to 10 beautiful kids, who surprisingly had a paler skin than usual. One night, while Yuki was knitting by a lamp, Minokichi looked at her face and confessed she reminded him of a figure he had seen years ago, a spirit from the other side who had taken his master's life with her frozen breath. When she heard this, Yuki suddenly left what she was doing and a horrible smile appeared on her face. Slowly, she got close to Minokichi, laughing evilly, transforming into the ghost and reproaching him for not keeping their secret. "You idiot! If it weren't for our children, I'd kill you right now. Remember this, if they ever complain about you, I'll know. In a cold and snowy night, I'll come for you and I'll kill you." Suddenly, the spirit became white fog and left up the fireplace forever.